What is going on, bargain PC parts hunters all across the world? We are out in the kind of like the middle of nowhere here, out in a town where I used to go PC parts hunting here in Japan. And I've already gone into a NZXT and picked up a case here, which is kind of like an NZXT knockoff. It's got the tempered glass side panel, looks like it's in pretty good condition, and we picked this up for a bargain price of $15 US. And we're just going through some of the places that I used to go here in Japan years ago and actually find some really good deals. But since this time, a lot of the places just put the prices up, and since then, deals have been a lot harder to come by. But we've already gone into the NZXT in Mobara here. Now, in terms of other parts in this store, they had a few PC parts, but all the prices were essentially a ripoff, but this NZXT knockoff. They did have a Cooler Master Storm old school full-size ATX case, but there was really nothing special about it other than it was a standard model. For instance, I've seen in the past these special NVIDIA models and things like that, and I definitely picked those up because they're becoming increasingly rarer to come by. But this one just looked like a standard one, and it was around $45. So I decided to give that a miss. But what we're gonna do now is we're going to move on to a hard off out in this area and see what they've got in terms of deals for used PC parts. So get your used PC parts price hunting capes on. Let's go check out what deals we can pick up this month right after this sponsor spot.
Never pay full price for Windows 10 or 11 again. With today's video sponsor, SCD Keys, you can get activated for as little as $15 using that coupon BFTYC. Links in the description below.
So we just finished up at the hard off, and my goodness, we got an absolute flogger of a deal here with an old school ATI Radeon case. It's actually got the AMD logo on it too. So this would have been around maybe 2008, 2009. And we got this for 4,000 Japanese yen, and that's around $30 US, but it was in great condition, and it's got a clear side panel. I believe this is a Cooler Master case, custom themed. It was ironic because we're just talking about this in the intro of today's video, and we come into one of these cases in really good condition, and it also had a power supply inside. So I thought this was an absolute no-brainer. I do believe the hard offs and the NZXTs, they sort of never come into these parts, so they don't know what they're worth, because when it comes to looking up other prices online, these parts just don't exist. And so this is where you can kind of get a deal at these places, though if we look at, say, their standard graphics cards they've got in stock, or CPUs and other items like that, and monitors, they usually just charge way more than they're worth, especially when it comes to things like DDR4 memory too and DDR5 memory. They just pretty much jack the prices higher than you can get it for new. So there's a lot of the times just no point in going to these places, but except these rare cases where they have these parts that they just don't know how to price them, and because they're old, they think they're worth very little. But this case is an absolute bargain in my opinion. It's I believe it's highly sought after because it was like the final time before AMD changed over to just AMD Radeon from ATI Radeon. So looks like it's really cool. Do let us know in the comment section below though what you guys think of this case. But other than that, we are going to go head into now Chiba, where we're used to going to Junk Paradise and DOS Paradise. They've usually got really good deals on CPUs, GPUs, and things like that. So we're going to take a Tech Yes tour out there and see what they have got crack-a-lackin'. So we just finished up at DOS Paradise, and there is always good deals at this place. It doesn't matter which month of the year I come in, there's always got deals popping out of DOS Paradise. And the first deal that we picked up here was an RTX 2060 Super 8GB ROG Strix Edition. So this is the OG of GPUs back before Asus wasn't burning up Ryzen 7000 series CPUs in motherboards. So we got this one for, I believe, a little over $170 US. It looks like it's in really good condition. It's got a guarantee with it too. And so we're going to test the headroom on the GPU core clocks and memory clocks when we get back to the Tech Yes studio. But then also when I was looking through, they had these deals just listed on the stickers where the parts weren't on display on the shelves. And I saw there a B450 motherboard, which was going for around 5,000 yen or $37. And this was a really good deal for a B450. I always need Ryzen B450s and B550 motherboards, so I decided to take the punt on this as well. But in terms of other deals there, they were all like the CPUs and the GPUs, other than these two deals and motherboards and things like that, they're all on that borderline of not cheap enough for me to go through with a purchase. But as you guys know, I always love to pick up the cream of the crop, and that's what we extracted here, and the other stuff is sort of still getting either whipped into cream or it's either turned into butter. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna head next door to Junk Paradise and see what they have on display. So Junk Paradise ended up having a decent couple of deals. I've actually got to decide if I should go back and get the Ryzen 5 3600s. They had actually quite a few of them for around a little over $70. So I thought that's a pretty good price for a 6-core 12-thread, especially if you're picking up the cheap motherboards. But I've still got to just check if AliExpress is cheaper, whether I should just order off AliExpress, and I've got to still test the Ryzen 5 4500 because I want to compare that to a 3600, not just with performance, but also power consumption. And considering that's a new CPU, is that going to be better value going forward? Since I do have a concern there with Ryzen 5 3600s, especially since I've come into a couple that just aren't running as well as a used CPU that's a couple of years old should, in terms of the not just the temperatures, but also the lifespan and having to downclock a model. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, I'll put a link to a video up here where we checked out a couple of Ryzen 5 3600s that were giving us some problems. Anyhow, that aside, we did pick up an i7 6700 system here for around $130. It has 16 gigabytes of DDR4. It's got an Asus H170 motherboard. It's got a deep cool, it's still like a little bit better than a box cooler, so that's a good thing. It's got a half decent power supply from Huntkey, so that was kind of the deciding factor. If I can just say slap in an RTX 3060 and SSD and change the case with that $15 case we got, that'll make for actually a really solid budget build off the top of my head already, just on the parts hunt, sort of making magic happen here. So that's the first deal we got from there. And then there was another deal on the shelves where they wanted essentially like $7 for a laptop that supposedly just needs a new battery and doesn't work properly. So it's giving out crashing and Windows doesn't install. So that to me just appears like either it's just old age and just the voltages need to be upped or the CPU speeds need to be dropped, or it could just be the SODIMM. And I've got heaps of like SODIMM DDR3, especially in Australia, that's just sitting there. So I should be able to get this laptop working, where I've actually just wanted to have a real cheap sort of side computer. And I sort of want to set it up as and then it can be like the testing system for programs that you're kind of like on the fence about. You don't know if they're dodgy. And then, the $7 laptop can take the beating rather than the other computers in the studio. So there's a big purpose for that. So anyhow, what we're going to do right now is head back to the Tech Yes studio. It's getting pretty hot here today. But also on the way back, I'm going to stop in, and if some of these places, if there's any parts, I'll report on it, because a lot of these places in the past, I've just come bust after bust. So if there's any good deals there, I will pull over and talk about the deals that we got there. But if not, I'll just put up the GTA 5 busted oververt over the B-roll footage. Then we'll get back and we'll see what's popping online as well. So I did actually wake up really early this morning and started this parts hunt, and just been feeling good lately, brothers. Feeling really good. The Tech Yes energy has been overhauled, but we'll talk a little bit about that, the used market, the new market, all that stuff later in the parts hunt. Let's try and find some more deals. So we're now back at the Tech Yes studio, and unfortunately on the way home, we just got met with bust off after bust off at the hard offs where they had no deals in terms of PC parts. And I'm finding that, again, the closer we get to Tokyo, the worse the deals get at these hard offs. So you're really only interested, in my opinion, I'm really only interested in the one, even locally here, it was a bust this month, but I'm only interested in getting the deals sort of more at the areas, not closer to Tokyo. So, whew, I mean, maybe again, just like those cases, those rare cases, I'm hoping we'll pick up something, but it just doesn't seem to happen at the ones that are closer to the city. So that's a bit unfortunate there. But that's only the deals that we've picked up here physically. Checking online, we've got some actually incredible deals that I had to pick up immediately, and that was an X99 motherboard, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, as well as a i7 5960X 8-core 16 thread. And they said it's all working. We get postage included for around $145 off the top of my head. So incredible deal there. Even though it's a bit old, X99 motherboards are actually quite expensive, and the 8-core 16 thread, I'm sure it's no slouch. And of course you get the RAM thrown in. That's me, super happy this month. It's probably going to be my favorite deal of the month going into this, although that ATI case, extremely rare. But looking as well through the deals online, it seems like there's GPUs that the mainstream GPUs, like your RTX 3060, 3060 Ti, 3070, 3000 series cards, they're not really budging in price a whole lot. I thought they would budge a little bit more with the 4070. But in Japan here, the 4070 is actually in a unique position where it's come out, it's sold poorly, and so it's in the process of the price coming down. So I think maybe next month, the prices of used GPUs will be a lot better. But that said, we did find a Vega 56 for around $90 US delivered. So we picked that up. I'm gonna be testing out Vega pretty soon. I'm curious to see how it performs. But a Vega 56 for this price, undervolted, I'm sure it's gonna be a decent deal. And hopefully it's not too banged up. But being that we got it online, we do get, I think with Mail Cuddy, we do get a sort of short-term guarantee. So I will check out the card. So hopefully it works fine out of the box. And there's also some headroom on the GPU core clocks and mem clocks. But that said, we've also tested out the laptop, and that works absolutely fine. I'm actually impressed that it went into the BIOS and it didn't freeze in the BIOS. So the problem that they're reporting here, I'm not too sure, but the keyboard seems to be problematic. So I might have to replace the keyboard, replace the battery if I want a fully functional laptop. But leaving it in the BIOS and just leaving it sitting there for half an hour, it didn't freeze. So I don't think there's any hardware problems with this laptop, which is great news. I probably will want to add in another 4 gigabytes of DDR3 memory to it just to make it a little bit solid for a little basic sort of browsing and muck around PC. But we also tested out the 2080 Super, the Asus ROG. The temperatures are great. The headroom there is great on core and mem clocks. And the motherboard is working absolutely fine too, the B450 that we got. So I'm really happy with all the deals. They all work so far. And I'll put the tally up on the screen for you guys for this month's parts hunt and all the PC deals that we got here. So do let us know what you think is the best deal in today's video. Also, do let us know in the comments section below, what deals have you been picking up lately? What do you think the best GPU deal is right now, the best CPU deal? I'm looking around because there's actually a really good question of the day, which we'll get onto very soon, that relates to sort of different CPU deals that are popping up. But in terms of the market right now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, the new and the used market, I'm finding there are extremely good deals, but it's just fragmented. And I mean by there'll be good deals in certain CPU areas, there'll be good deals in certain GPU areas. For instance, I'm finding with GPUs, a lot of the, say, the GTX 10 series, and also, say, Vega and things like that, they're just going out ridiculously cheap. And then for CPUs, I'm finding a lot of the Ryzen 3rd gen and even 5th gen is really good value right now. So DDR4 platforms are extremely good value. That's where I'd be gaming on right now if I'm looking to get into PC gaming for the best value for money. But even with the high-end stuff, I'd go with the
Ryzen 5000 series CPUs and the higher end GPUs, if you had to get a higher end GPU, really at those 1440p and 4K resolutions, you're not going to be missing out on a whole lot. But in terms of bank collapses, we did the previous video, bank has collapsed again since we did that last video on the First Republic. So that's sort of like what we were saying in that video is pretty, you might want to go watch it because the predictions in there are already sort of becoming to fruition, which is not good news for the broad economy, but it's going to keep bringing PC parts prices down, so especially on the higher end. And since that video, there's also the RTX 4090 apparently is getting a price drop too. So there's going to be a bit of price drops, and the longer this M2 money supply tightens, the more we're going to see PC parts prices drop. So hopefully you guys are keeping your noses peeled, sniffing around for those bargains. The used market always entertains me. But also another thing is too, I haven't included this in the parts tally because it's not used parts, it's new parts, but I'm finding the DDR4 memory, the SSDs are just, they've come down drastically in price in the last month here in Japan, like actually shocked. And so I ignored buying any SSDs or RAM from places like DOS Power or Junk Paradise because the prices were cheaper for new stuff. So that's going to adjust on the used market very soon. But we got like 2 terabyte NVMEs for ridiculously low, around $70. And then also we got a 4000 megahertz DDR4 memory kit, Viper, for a little over $80 for 32 gigabytes. So I'm going to be tweaking that because I really want to get the best out of DDR4 and tweak the 5800X3D. So, and I want to do that with the 4000 megahertz memory, even though I'll have to drop the memory speeds because the Infinity Fabric won't run at, I believe, 2000 megahertz. So we've got some videos in the pipeline. I do apologize once again for the slow content here at Tech Yes City. I've really had to overhaul my health in the last couple of months, and it's really starting to make a difference for me personally, where I'm waking up and instead of just like being a slouch to get out of bed, I'm just waking up, hitting the BMX bike, doing some exercise, and just really just overhauling everything. And I will update this with personal things. There's actually some really bad news behind the scenes, which I will update in the BTS members vlog very soon. But other than that, it's, yeah, things are getting better here. The content will keep coming, and it will be coming at a faster rate. So if you're enjoying it, do hit that like button, do stay subbed, ring the bell to get the content as soon as it drops, and do let us know in the comment section below if you have any questions too, like this question of the day here, and it's related to the CPU deals, which comes from Osama Freelancer 2298, and they ask, what about the E5 2680 V4 processor? It's available on AliExpress for just $18 shipped. Should I go for it? Is it a good CPU? So I believe the V4s, the Broadwells, at $18, that's 14 cores, 28 threads. That's extremely good value for money, but the V4s aren't as good as the V3s in that you can't unlock that max turbo multiplier for the single core to the all cores. So you will be stuck on this CPU to, I believe, it can go as low as 2.6 gigahertz all cores. So I'll order one of these in and check it out, but for gaming, it will be a bit of a slouch if the clock speeds are that low. I did see also a 2690 V4, which is going for around $30. So I actually what I'll do is I'll order both of those CPUs, and we'll do a little bit of a Xeon comparison and see if that's, especially the V4, the 2690, that may be okay. If it gets to around close to 3 gigahertz and you can give it a B clock bump and get the all core over 3 gigahertz, it'll be pretty decent for gaming, especially if you're just happy with 60 FPS gaming and you want something that'll double down with cheap DDR4 registered memory for a workstation CPU. So that's, we'll check that out for you. But in terms of, is it a good CPU? I haven't tested it thoroughly, especially recently, but it will have its caveats, just keep in mind. So hopefully that answers that question. And with that aside, I'll catch you guys in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.
We are going to have to act if we want to live in a different world.